So welcome back to our C tutorials, and today's tutorials are centered around use of files. Previously, we have been using scanf. Maybe you'd use a type specifier for an integer there, and say maybe num1, and we'd read in the number 1 from the keyboard. This used the standard input output stdio.h and a file from the screen. Also, when we wanted to output the screen, we'd use the printf, and then you'd specify maybe the type specifier for an integer. Then we'll have our maybe sum. But in today's session, we are going to cover how we can be able to read from files and how we can also be able to write on files. So to get started, I'll navigate to where I store my files, a folder called Come, and then see programs. And then when I ls, you can see we have all the files, all the folders that we have, or files we have been working on the previous lessons with. So I'll move, and in today's maybe session, we'll try to create a payroll system, a salary calculator, where now we'll be having data maybe for an employee's name, then the hours they have worked, and then the rate per hour. And then we'll also be looking at how maybe can we calculate the overtime. How can we calculate the best paid employee? How also can we calculate things like the number of employees in the file? How can we be able to fetch that and output it to the screen in a readable way? So I'll create a text file. I'll create a text file using nano, which will contain our employee data. txt. This is the file. Remember, this is the file that we will be reading from. Therefore, I am simply typing the dataset there, employee.txt. So I'll type maybe the name of the first employee. Then this employee maybe works has worked at 5 hours that week, and then the rate per hour is 50 Kenyan shillings. Maybe there is Lona Pendo, who has worked for 30 hours. Then the rate is 40.00. Then we have Mark Baraka. The rate is 45. The hours are 45, and then the rate is maybe 25.00. We also have, maybe you can have the last one, Franklin Wezo, who has worked for 42 hours, and then the rate is 30.00 per hour. So I will save my file by pressing Ctrl X, save the buffer, employee data.txt. So when I say just cut employee data.txt, I'm expecting to have all my employees there and the hours they have worked. Remember, as you can see, someone like Lona Upendo, or someone like Kelvin Come worked overtime. Not the normal working hours per week, maybe are 40, and someone like Come has worked for an extra 10 hours. Therefore, we are going to see how can we create a program to be able to calculate the net pay for someone like Come, and then be able to calculate for him the net pay, which also includes the overtime. So having done that, then I will create another. In ls, you can see already employee data.txt is already there. So I'll create first the program, then which I'll call nano, maybe salary. I will create it using nano salary calculator. Nano salary calculator.c. So the first thing is that I will have the includes. I'll have the include, and then stdio.h, which is the standard input output ender. Then I'll have the hash include, and then we have the string.h, the string library, which will also include or use in our programs. Then I will define a constant for the maximum maybe regular hours, which someone should work maybe per week, which are 40. The official regular hours for most people are 40. Then I will define another constant for overtime factor, where maybe when someone works overtime, then there will be a factor of 2.0. From there, I will move straight to our int main. Then inside the int main, I can have it here, so it's space there. So I will declare a file pointer is an input pointer, file input pointer. This pointer now will point to a function inside the file is fopen, and then I will reference my file which had all the employees, which was employee data txt, and then I will just say this is I want to be able to read from this file. Next, I want also to be able to write, so I will have the file maybe output, then I will open the output pointer, then open. I want to be able to write this inside maybe a payroll. So txt now, txt, and I want it to be writable, so I will append that flag right there. So from there, I will then create my I would create my variables. Of course, the first variable is the one with the first name. Maybe to be able to show you this, just a minute, I'll open a new tab. Then I'll be able to ls. I want to cut employee data.txt, and you can see we have the first name here, and then the last name. Then of course you have the hours, and then the rate. So we have to declare variables to hold all that. So I will declare first name, which will be maybe of a character array of which will hold 20 characters. Maybe the first name, we'll assume it's 20 characters. Then last name will hold again another 20. At some point we'll have to output the full name of our employee to maybe this file payroll.txt, and therefore I have the full name, which will now be 40. Then there you can also you may want also to output the highest paid employee, the name by their name, then that will also hold the 40 there. From there, I will declare maybe a variable of type double. Remember, double stores a floating point, long floats, something like 10.000056. That will be stored in a double. Therefore, when we have hours, it will be read in as a double. Also the rate, so the regular pay, which will output the screen, which of course will be a product of the hours worked times the rate, if that is less than of course less than 40, or the hours worked and then times the rate. So the next thing, we can create the overtime pay, which will be now a subtraction of the hours worked minus the hours worked which the employee maybe has worked on that week, and then you subtract from the maximum regular hours, you will get the overtime hours, and then you multiply by the rate, and then the overtime factor, you'll be able to get the overtime paid. Then we have the net pay. Okay, net pay of course is now the total. Maybe someone has overtime pay and regular pay, the total of the two will give us the net pay. From there, you can create another integer which will contain our wage bill, is the amount of money that we will be paying our employees. The total amount of money, you can initialize it to 0, and we will have to declare maybe the biggest pay. How much? Who is paid the highest? Therefore, maybe you can initialize this to 0 because at the start of our program we have not checked who is paid the highest. Also, you can create another integer where we'll be able to store the number of employees in our file, and then we'll be able to output the number of employees in our file, and then from there we'll be able to continue with our program. So from there, I'll come to printf. Remember when we worked in the other normal printf was helping us to output to a file. This time it is file printf, you'll be able to output to a file. So we'll use the pointer, the out pointer is here to output the file, and that output file, we want to store the name, then tab be the name, because the name will be name will be the combination of the first name and the last name, therefore it will be long. Therefore, that's why I've used the 2/t's to create a tab space there. Then we'll have the hours. Let's put also the hours, rate, regular pay, and then overtime pay, and then the net pay. Then from there, I'll create 2 new lines, which will now be able to, for example, when you look at here, I want to have that as the header, and then I'll put 2 new lines, and then I'll start outputting my data. So from there, the payroll data from there, try to scan. Now I'll move to F, file, scan F. Remember the F that is appended below before the S there is for the file. This is how we read in data from a file, F scan F. Therefore, you'll use the pointer, the input pointer, and then of course, because it's the maybe you're reading in the first name, and as you'll be reading in the first name, then you realize that we need to keep on reading the first name. This is the we'll be storing it inside this first name array there. And when you're passing in an array as an argument in a function, we don't use the brackets, so it will be like that. So there's something else that I need to show you. Remember that the file that we're reading from is the employee data.txt. There must be a way of showing us that we are on the end of the file, and as long as that we are not on the end of that file, then we should keep on looping and outputting the variables that or the values that are stored in that file. So there must be some changes that I'll make to this file here. So nano employee data.txt, I'll add the end variable there to signify that the end value, to signify that I'm at the end of that file, and therefore I'll keep on looping. But once I'm at the end, then I should be able to exit. So save that, and I will go back to my program. Then from here, I'll have the while loop. Now I'll have the while loop, which I will try to compare string compare. This will compare it from the string.h library, the function that is found there, and I will use this to compare if the first name we have read in is it equal to the end. So if it is equal to the end, it will give us 0, but we don't want it to be equal to the end, and as long as it's not equal to the end, then we should keep on reading in the data. That's where we will keep on looping our variables, maybe our values, keeping grouping our data, So from there, of course, the number, every time we loop, the number of employees will keep on increasing. So this is the same as number of employees plus 1 every time we loop inside that loop. So from there, I will scan F, scan F, then I use the input. Remember, the first parameter in the F scan F is the pointer. So the input, in this case, the pointer to the input file. So F scan F input. Then I want to read in a string, because the first string that I'm reading in is cat employee data.txt. I'm reading in this last. Remember, now I've read in where we are at. We are reading already the first name. So what we are reading now in is this last name, which will be read in is the type specify the string to last name. And then from there, I'll read in the number of hours, then the rate. So from there, I'll read in percentage, because it's a long float. And then I'll also read another long float. This is when I will store my last name is stored in here. Because, like, for example, in this case, we have Kome as the last name, Endo as the last name, and so on. This is the hours, which will be stored now here. We'll come here and have the hours already declared a variable to store that, a double hours. Then you have the rate to store in the rate. But remember, you have to use the ampersand. Then we have the hours, whereby the ampersand means the address of the memory where we will be storing in our hours, and then the rate. But remember, for an array, we don't need to use that ampersand there. So from there, I'm going to go now. I'll check are the hours of our employee less than or equals to the maximum regular hours, max regular hours. Are they less than or equals to the max regular hours? If this is the case, then we'll come in here and I'll say the regular pay will be equals to hours times now the rate that we have read in there, because it means that they have no extra hours, therefore they just have the regular hours, and this tells us that now the overtime pay will be given as 0, because they just worked for within the hours, and therefore they are being paid according to that rate. So that is the end of our if. This is the while. So if, so we'll come and end that if there. Then we'll have an alternate else. So in the else construct, you'll come and assume that now, or you come and see that now, okay, it means that it's if hours is the maximum hours, the opposite of that. So it means that the hours now are greater than the maximum regular hours. Therefore, we'll come and calculate the regular pay, and then it will be given by the maximum regular hours times the rate. Means that they worked after the maximum, and then we'll try to look at the overtime. So the overtime pay now, overtime pay will be given by, what's the hours? That's the difference now. The hours subtract maximum regular hours. You see the difference of the extra hours worked, and then multiply this by the rate, and then multiply it again by the overtime factor, meaning that they worked overtime, and therefore there must be, but we declared it, the overtime factor there. So if that is the case, then factor declared it here. Can look at it, the overtime factor times 2.0 in this case. So once we are there, then we can come comfortably and end our else there, if else. So we are still inside the while loop. So while still inside the while loop, then we can be able to calculate very well our net pay will be given by a regular pay plus overtime pay. So that is the net pay. So from there, we are now at the step where we are now to output the screen the name of the name, the hours, the rate, regular, and the overtime. You write that file now using the printf. And to do that, then the first thing we have to do is that we have to come here and copy to our full name array. We have to copy to our full name array the first name, and then we'll concatenate or combine that now full name. We combine it with an empty string to be able to separate the first name and the last name. Then we'll concatenate again, string concatenate again full name, and then we'll use the last name that will end in the last name array. So we'll be able to concatenate that with the last name there. That way now, if we are to put full name, it will contain the full name of our employee. So from there, we can come now and print out printf output pointer file. Then we'll have, maybe we'll now format the specific, we'll have now the formatting where we'll declare a width of maybe negative 15, that string of full name. Then maybe you'll have a window of five columns, and then all that one decimal place, and that one is the maybe the hours worked. Then you can have maybe, of course, this is the long float, a long float or a float for the hours. Then you can have the rate, maybe a percentage there again, percentage f, but now 6 columns and all the 2 decimal places. You can have that like that. This will now be mapped to full name, and then it will be mapped to hours worked, and the rate, which are the variables that we were able to. Full name was got from here, hours, of course we have the hours, then which were read from the file, and then the rate will be able to put that to our file there. So from there I'll come again, print f, again to the output file, and I'll print out maybe up to 9 decimal place. Use the format specifier for an integer, 9 columns, 2 decimal places. Float is now I'll print the regular pay in percentage 9.2 float in maybe percentage maybe 7.2. This is a formatting that I was trying to hurry to be able to make sure that our format output looks nice. But what it simply means is that let us create 9 columns for the output that will be output here up to decimal places. Let's create 7 columns up to 2 decimal places for the rounding off the output that will be given here to 2 decimal places. In this case, we'll have the regular pay will be output there. As you can see now, the regular pay here. Then we have the overtime pay. Then we'll have the net pay, which will be output there. So like this, now we are able to show that inside the file output, the output file itself, we'll be able to write these values. So from there, also come here again and check, maybe is the net pay greater than the biggest pay. Remember, the biggest pay, we are trying to look for the highest paid employee, but the biggest pay here now was 0. If the net pay, which will be the output of regular pay plus part-time pay, if the net pay is greater than 0, then we assume that our new net pay, or our new biggest pay, would be equals to the net pay. And remember, since we're inside the loop, of course, we will keep on looping and looping and looping, and of course, as long as the new biggest pay is greater than the other one, we'll keep on looping like that. So from there, you can now come and copy, string copy. We can copy the highest paid, which is the variable that we had here. Highest paid, the name of that person, highest paid. Since it's inside our function, we don't need to use the brackets for the array, highest paid, and then you associate this with full name at that time of our employee. So from there, we'll come in and end our if there. So now, what is the wage bill? So the wage bill will be given by, remember, we're inside the while loop. Therefore, every time that we're calculating the net pay, we have to keep on adding. Remember, the wage bill the first time was initialized to 0. Therefore, wage bill plus will be equals to the net pay, because you keep on looping. Every other time. And now, to end our loop, remember, in our loop, what we did is that we were trying to compare, is the first name identical to the end? The opposite of that is the first name identical to the end. As long as it is not identical to the end, then we'll keep on looping. But now a time has come where now it is identical to the end, meaning that the loop has got to the end there. Therefore, if that is the case, then you realize that is now false. So this loop will keep on looping as long as now f scan f is not equals to the end. But now we keep on looping. So we move the next first name f scan f. We use our input pointer there, percentage s, or then we will continue with our first name. Then we'll end our while loop, so that now every time we loop, a new first name is read. So what this will do is that it will read Kelvin, Lorna, Mark, Franklin, but at one time when it meets end, it will read in end, but now it will not execute because now the while loop turns false. Because now the end, first name, end will be equals to 0. That will means that now the loop will end because that will be false. Because now the string compare there will give at false. So from there, move on maybe and printf. This is the end of our while loop. And come here, set there and say f maybe f f. Then you can print the output file. How many employees do we have? So in a new line, you can print number of employees. Then you can have the use an integer percentage d slash inline, and then you can simply specify number of employees like that. So the next thing, you can print f again, the output f printf. I had an arc there, so I get rid of it. Then total wage f out, and then second parameter is the total maybe wage bill is Kenyan shillings. Kenyan shillings, you can have can put that 3 columns. Then it's a float up to 2 decimal places because it's a shilling, and then f slash n. So from there, just output the wage bill. Put that's the output. So again, I will output the highest paid employee. So I'll say percentage s for the string, and we get pay of maybe again the biggest pay itself. We are saying it's maybe we would specify 3 columns, and it will be rounded off 2 decimal places. And then we can move this to a new line. Then we'll be able to output the highest paid. Remember, the highest paid now is that array. Highest paid is this array that we had here. The highest paid, which was now assigned what? Which was now assigned. Remember here, we had to assign that to the full name as long as the net pay is greater than the biggest pay. As long as the net pay is greater than the biggest pay. I hope that is well understood. So from there, we'll start the highest paid, then and then that is the string. Then how much were they paid? It is the biggest pay. The biggest pay is equals to net pay. Biggest pay is equals to, so biggest, put the biggest pay there. The biggest pay will be matched 3 point. This float specifier. The highest paid will be matched to this character string specifier. Biggest paid there. From there, we will end there. Remember, we have now to close our input so that everything that was in the buffer will be now written, and then we will have to close our output file pointer. Then we close we return of course 0, our main, and then we close our main there. So I'm going to save this and try to compile. This is C salary calculator.c salary calculator. Are there errors? Yes, one error. Biggest pay, which bill? Okay, biggest pay first is undeclared. Biggest pay first is, so biggest pay is not declared. Okay, so I'll move again to nano salary calculator.c. Biggest pay is not declared. And it's because of this semicolon, so we can get rid of it and have simply a comma. So yes, put run again, compile. Cannot find salary calculator.c. So I missed a flag here. The dash O. Salary calculator, that is compiled well. So I'll ls. Okay, now I'm expecting a new file called payroll.txt here. So I'll output the salary calculator. Let's consider payroll now. So cut a payroll.txt. You can see our values here: Kelvin, comma, hours, rates, and then the regular, and then the overtime. So I missed a point because I didn't. This one should now move to a new line. So just more formatting. Now we have the name of our employees. So nano salary calculator.c. Now you're outputting the name. f print f, and then we have the output. Output, and then so how then we ensure that the full name hours? So here, this one should be followed by, after you are done with our, it should move to a new line after we are done with our net pay. Then this one should move straight to a new line. So I'll compile again so that my output is well. So compile, be done, cut payroll.txt. That is now better. I hope you can see that. And thanks so much for listening. The next time we are moving to functions, then maybe we'll cover it in the other lesson. Thank you so much for watching. Please like this channel if you gained some knowledge, and also follow me on Twitter, Kelvin Comey. Thank you so much.